Hello and welcome to episode 405 of the Stacey West podcast. I am your host for this evening, Gary, and I am joined by Emily tonight. How are you, Ems?
Hey, Gaz. Yeah, I'm not too bad, thank you. I've been poorly all week. I've had a horrible, stinking, rotten cold and I've felt awful. But I'm on the mend now. Managed to rally in time for the game yesterday, which is amazing how that happens, isn't it? When you're when you're a bit under the weather, you seem to perk up just as there's a football match you have to go to. But yeah, I'm doing much better. How are you? I understand there were some drinks for Chris Lamming's birthday yesterday. So how are you feeling today?
Yeah, I was a little delicate. There was the charity night at the Adam and Eve. So it's in aid of Calm charity campaign against living miserably, and some people that we've known for many years. The Cochrans lost their son tragically to suicide, I think in 2012. I think I'm right in saying. And so they have a charity night, and it happens normally to fall around Chris's birthday because it's also Lloyd's birthday, who was the young man who lost his life. So we try and go along to support that. So we went along. There was a band on. They're really good. They're called the Volts. And I wasn't in the mood because I had a few drinks beforehand, before the game. In the Millers and Stack and the Treaty. So, and then I stopped drinking, obviously. So my last pint was like 2:30. And at 7:00, I hadn't had another one. So I'd gone into that lull. So it took a little bit to get going. But yes, both Chris and I were poorly. And we're trying to identify what it might have been. It can't have been the copious amounts of alcohol. We've ruled that out, definitely.
Right.
So, yeah.
That's what they all say.
Yes, yeah. Funny you should say about rallying from your sick bed. I do have a very, very quick story. Back in 98, I was off work poorly on a Thursday and a Friday. And on the Saturday, we played Burnley. And I felt remarkably better for the Burnley game. So I went along as poacher and I did all my stuff as poacher. And what do you know, on the Monday, I felt quite poorly again. So I had the Monday and Tuesday off, went to see Faithless, I think, on the Monday night. So rallied for that. And then when I got back into work on the Wednesday morning, HR were waiting for me. And they called me into a room and basically sacked me. And they said, "You were at the football, weren't you?" And I was like, how on earth do they know that? Because this is back in the day when like Lincoln got like 2,000. And it turns out the company that employed me had sponsored a box. And so all of the head honchos were in a box watching me on the sidelines as poacher while I was meant to be too sick to go to work. So be careful of rallying.
How did they know it was you if you had your...
Could
they just tell by your mannerisms?
Well, no, but this may come as a surprise, but occasionally I took the suit off as well.
Did you?
Yeah, right. I didn't wear it solid for 16 years. So what I would do is I'd get changed just before the kickoff.
Don't shatter the illusion for the 8-year-old me that met you when you were poacher.
Yeah, I did actually do a series of photos once, and I put them on Facebook about 2008. So it was an early Facebook of poacher just around my house. So like poacher in bed or me in the suit sat on the toilet to try and create the illusion that poacher was real all the time. So
I love that.
Happy days. So we did rally. We'd best talk about the football. So we rallied to watch a game of football. There's one thing that cannot be said about Lincoln City this season, and that's a lack of entertainment, because yesterday's game, and we'll go through it bit by bit, but it just really had it all, didn't it?
It absolutely did. I think when you say it had it all, I almost think you could literally tick every box that a football match needs to have, and we had it. It was a very entertaining, breathless game in a completely different way to some of the other entertaining yet breathless games we've had this season. Thoroughly enjoyable, though. I think I came away feeling like I've dragged myself out of my sick bed, and it was all worth it, I think, in the end.
Yeah, I think when the dullest game that you've had all season was a 2-0 win against Reading on the opening day. Yeah, it's pretty interesting, pretty big going. Right, so we'll start at the beginning. Team selection. There was some discussion between us in our Stacey West chat about whether Riley Towler would start. I believed that he would start at left centre back. Lots of people said, I think Chris said left back. We were all right. He did start. Hamer and Jackson, maybe a slight surprise. I suppose it might be a question mark over whether Adam Reach was 90 minutes fit yet or not. But other than that, very few shocks in the lineup. A fairly strong starting 11.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, the only debate really, like you said, was the left back position. And my opinion on it was that Riley Towler was probably brought into play in that game for his defensive duties. We know Wigan are they're a good side, and we certainly saw that yesterday. So I think having a more defensive-minded player in that position was probably what Skabala was going for, as opposed to Adam Reach. Yes, I also agree that the fitness may be taken into account as well, but he's probably a bit more of an attacking left-back option, and I think we probably wanted to just make sure we didn't come away with nothing out of yesterday's game, given how decent we know Wigan can be.
Yeah. Now, there is a misconception that for the first 10 minutes of the game, Wigan ran as ragged. Because actually, for the first 10 minutes of the game, we had more possession. We had a couple of little half chances. I'm not going to say we were the better side. We didn't start with the intensity that we've started the last few games with. But it was the goal that kind of changed it and swung the pendulum in their favour. So it's probably best to jump straight there. I thought it was a decent enough start from both sides, tentative, testing each other out. Two sides who will not be, you would hope, would not be trouble in the bottom four at all. Wigan certainly looking to be, in my opinion, the best side we've seen at Sincilbank so far this season. But we just got hit with a sucker punch. Now, we'll break the goal down because we love to apportion blame here on the Stacey West podcast. We play the blame game. And if we're playing the blame game for this goal, I'm not sure whether, one, it's somebody in the area who you want to just stand in front of Sam Tickle. You could say, where's the street smarts? It's a great ball. Tendai gets done by Paul Mullen. Is he to blame? Possibly, possibly not. Should George Wickens have come out? I can say that with not having Chris on the podcast. Great finish from Mullins, but where do you apportion the blame for the goal? Because there must be some with a goal like that.
Yeah, there must be. Do you know what? I'm going to book the trend of Stacey West blame game. I don't really think anyone was particularly to blame. Although going back on that, I don't think I can blame Wickens, but I think my question marks are over his role in it. And it's really hard to tell when you're watching it live because your eyes have gone where the ball's gone. So you're not looking at what he's doing. And watching the highlights back, it also doesn't really show you everything you need to see. So there's just a few question marks for me about, I don't really know how long it takes to get back from how long it should take to get back from the halfway line to your kind of starting position as a keeper. In real time, like I say, you're not looking at where Wickens is. When you watch the highlights back, I sort of felt like, a lot's happened between him kicking the ball and it ending up with Paul Mullen, running towards our goal. So I don't know whether he could have got back in position a little quicker. And then I also think it's difficult for him at that point, actually, because he's doing that kind of goalkeeper run where you're running backwards, you're kind of tracking back, you're looking over your shoulder, you're not properly in any kind of momentum, you're not coming, you're not going. So while I didn't want to put any blame on him because I think he was in a very difficult position having to make a really difficult decision. And who knows whether he got back on his line and in the right position with a Paul Mullen running one-on-one, you may well get the same outcome. But yeah, I think it was very awkward for Wickens. I think he left himself in a very awkward position, running that kind of scrabbling back to goal kind of run that goalkeepers do.
I'm going to surprise you here. I'm not going to blame anyone. So that's a kind of a half-arsed Alan Partridge reference there for those. So I'm going back on what I've just said. I just think that everybody could have done slightly better, but Ryan Lowe's post-match interview, he said that was something he felt that they could do. It was good distribution. We know Paul Mullen's quick. I think Wickens has looked and believed that Tendai is going to get across and get the ball. Remember, we're looking at everything from stand level, not ground level. When you're at ground level, it can sometimes be hard, depth perception and things like that from a different. So I think he believes that 10's going to get it, and then when he realizes he isn't, he kind of comes forward again. You can partly go, well, the keeper might have done better. You can go, 10 might have done better. Maybe somebody could have blocked. But it's actually, sometimes you have to go, fair play, Wigan. You've done us.
Yeah.
We were attacking. It's our corner. It's our attack, and you've done us. So straight off the training ground, 1-0 to Wigan. And I think if anybody is thinking, well, Wickens could have done better, not only was he in credit beforehand, but he was certainly in credit over the next 20 minutes when, let's be honest, we were just like a punch drunk a boxer's opponent just stood there as they were getting free hits, because they were just then infinitely better than us for up until probably the 30-minute mark.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I just going back to the goal, I was really surprised by Paul Mullins' pace. And I've watched the documentary. I've watched all the series, and he completely outran Derikwa, and that it surprised me actually how easily he got away from him. So fair play to him. He's got a face that I don't like, but I can't hold that against his goal scoring prowess, can I? And his pace. But no, after that goal, we looked at sixes and sevens. We looked a little bit all over the shop. There was some uncharacteristic mistakes from some of our kind of, really solid players. I remember Jacko kind of almost giving the ball to Mullin again, who, drew a really good save from Wickens there. So again, he kind of makes up for, if he did make a mistake for the goal, makes up for it there. But yeah, we were all at sea, I think, in the next kind of few minutes leading up to kind of when we got our equaliser. I feared the worst at that point, if I'm completely honest. I feared the worst. And Wigan were looking a really good team. They were able to pass around our press really well to kind of break out and break forward. And I thought they looked a really good team, and we looked a bit off it.
Yeah, I agree. I like when I say I like, I mean as a footballer, not as in their capacity to hurt Lincoln City as an opponent. But I like Callum Wright when he was I think he was at Cheltenham on loan and went to Plymouth. Really liked him. Matt Smith was at Doncaster a few years ago, a player that I really liked. I thought Ryan Trevitt had a good game for them. Sadie up top was good. People talk about Paul Mullen, and he always scores goals at this level. But if you actually look, I don't think his League One record is all that outstanding. A lot of his goals came, I think, at League Two level. Somebody will happily shoot me down, I'm sure, for that. So I thought Sadie looked a real handful. If you want a centre forward who's going to be knocking you about and bullying and that sort of thing. Humbo was giving Tendai all sorts of nightmares. 10 picked up a booking. We're going to talk later about bookings. But 10 picked up a booking. I thought we were just all over the place. The ball from Adam Jackson was very reminiscent of the goal that we scored against Notts County on Tuesday night, where their boy passed it back to Collins, and it is an outstanding save from Wickens, who literally minutes after conceding the goal that we've put a slight question mark over, you can say, well, he's definitely kept us in the game at that point.
And not affected his confidence as well, just to add to that. Clearly, some goal, he was straight off his line and made himself big and got a hand to that chip from Mullins. So yeah, that's clearly not. It could easily knock a goalkeeper's confidence, couldn't it? So
I think that's a great point, actually, because I think perhaps a couple of seasons, last season with Wickens, it could have affected his confidence. I think we've seen Josh Griffiths make not an error, because I'm not saying George Wickens made an error, but concede a goal where you think, oh God, we could have done better with that, and then go on to have a bit of a shaky game. At no point did I feel a lack of confidence in George Wickens. He has come in, probably perception, he's come on leaps and bounds from last season. Maybe that's unfair, because maybe last season he certainly wasn't bad, but I think there was a perception that we conceded a couple of weak goals. There was perception that he could have done better with some shots, certainly pre-Christmas. And I think since the season's kicked off, I don't think anybody's looked at our goalkeeping situation and gone, well, we should really be giving G-Cock a League One chance, because Wickens has done nothing wrong. So the big question mark over Lincoln City this season was, what are we going to do when we go a goal behind? Because when we go a goal up, we know what happens. We shut up shop, we battle, we fight hard. Not intentionally sometimes, but we can defend a lead. Can we get ourselves back into a game? And not only that, but can we get ourselves back into a game against a decent side? This wasn't a bottom two side scoring and then going, right, let's shot the shot. This was a decent League One side, who I think on that showing should be trouble in the top 6 by the end of the season. And actually we responded well, because whilst they were battling, they were kind of giving us a little bit of a slapping, our heads didn't drop. And I don't think, we were struggling to contain them, but you didn't feel it was a lack of, I want this to sound right, there was no kind of attitude change. We were still kept trying to do what we were doing, even though it wasn't working. Does that make sense?
I think so.
Yeah. Good.
Please,
so. if you understand it, the 50, 60 people watching at home will absolutely understand it. Yeah. So we keep doing what we're doing. Now, we had a corner. The referees had a word with their boys for pulling. You can see it happen. Ryan Lowe admitted that they've been warned for pulling. So they switched the marker. So it's a different person pulling. And apparently that should prevent it from being a foul in the world, according to Ryan Lowe, who later apologised to Tom Bayliss. So I'm not going to be really critical of Lowe. It's a brave decision to make for the penalty, but it's one that the referee has foreshadowed. He's had the word for pulling with one of their players. He's already spotted it. They've gone and done the same thing, irrespective of whether it's a different player, irrespective of whether Riley goes down a little easily. But if you watch it back, I mean, it is a proper tussle. I do think it's 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. And I do think Riley is pushing as much as their boys pulling. It's a brave call from the referee to give us the penalty.
Interesting, because I think it is a penalty, and from watching it back, I think that Towler was pulled down by it was Sadie again. So I think we'll talk about him a lot, I'm sure, because he was involved in so much in the game, good and bad. But yeah, for me, it was a penalty. I think it's one of them where it's difficult because you see it not given a lot. You see pushing and pulling and all sorts going on in the box. And I think probably the majority of the time it doesn't get given, or it does often get given in the favour of the defending team. How many times have we seen it where you're about to take a corner, before it gets put in, the ref goes over and has a word, and then the minute the ball is kicked, he blows for a free kick to the team who's defending. It happens so often. But I think he's got hold of him. I think he's pulled him to the ground. I think for me that is it's a clear penalty, and it's one of those stupid ones. It's one of those stupid ones, particularly when you've been warned. So I think if that was given against one of our players, I would be cross. I'd be cross. I'd be saying that's foolish. You've been warned. You're clearly grabbing him. It's a daft penalty to give away. Yeah, for me, I think I'm calling it a Stonewall penalty all day long. Maybe that's the red and white glasses, but I think.
Now, off the top of my head, I seem to think we were given a penalty for something similar last season. And I want to say Bolton, but there was a moment I remember watching a game last season where I said to Dad, it's a brave penalty to give. You don't normally see those get given. Like you say, it's nearly always a free kick the other way. I mean, I can understand why it was given, but it's another one of those ambiguous decisions, like the red card last week, where you can understand why Sonny Bradley was sent off, but there's so many arguments for it not being a sending off that if it happens to you and you're a rose-tinted fan, you go, that's never a penalty, and it's one way or the other. I can see that. Yeah. James Collins, no mistake, steps up, smashes it home.
Yeah, leathers it.
3 minutes later, I think we get a goal based on the hangover from the penalty, because it's another corner. Mm-hmm. But there's no pushing and pulling this time. And okay, it's slightly different because it's a short corner that gets recycled into the box. But there's still Towler has still managed to get himself free and cause a real issue, obviously nodding down for Collins. And I think there was a reticence on their part to be too strong-arming 3 minutes later because the referees already had a look at it. So I actually think the two goals are quite heavily connected. And obviously, James Collins does James Collins things.
He does. I think that's very interesting. Now you've said that, because it was Towler up against Sadie again in the box to win that header, to provide the assist for Collins. And Ryan Lowe commented on that as well, said that he felt that Towler had nudged him in the box and he'd gone down. So whether Sadie's thinking, right, I'm going to play for something here. I've looked at the replay. There's not. Again, red and white tinted glasses, not a lot in it. He does go down. his arms are up in that kind of falling to the floor in quite a dramatic way, kind of arms in the air motion. So there's not a lot in it for me. And yeah, maybe you're right on that, in that they're hungover from that. They're thinking, right, if you're going to give it for pushing and pulling, I'm going to take a fall and on a slight push. And the ref's obviously not giving anything, quite rightly so. And yeah, it's a lovely header from Towler and a really good finish actually from Collins. I mean, it's a tap-in of sorts, but it's one of those tap-ins that needs a little bit of skill and finesse to just guide it into the back of the net. And yeah, really good. And that I'm counting that as 2 assists for Towler because he won the penalty. That's how it works, isn't it? If you win the penalty, do you get that assist?
Well,
it's about as real as second assists, surely.
Well, do you know what? When we beat MK Dons 4-0 a few years ago, did Brennan Johnson get a hat-trick? And Morgan Rogers claimed a hat-trick of assists because one of them was where he won the penalty. So I remember in the post-match interview him joking around saying that he was having 3 assists. So being a stats man, but also seeing the eye test, I'm going to give you that, but I don't think you'll get away with it in a conversation with Chris, who will absolutely insist that winning a penalty isn't an assist. But you do have a Riley Towler fascination anyway, don't you? So you are erring on the side of giving him whatever he wants.
Yeah, I do. I do like him. I like his Alice band.
So that turned things, and it was a good atmosphere because we were second best. We were still second best then, I think, going through into the early knock-ins of the second half. But it was showing a different side to us. It was showing the character that we'd got to come back from 1-0 down to go 2-1. I think I've seen a lot of comments about the referee having a bad game. I thought he had a good game. I thought it was a difficult game to referee. Last weekend, Aaron Bannister made an absolute hash of an easy game to referee. He buggered it up completely. It was easy to referee, bar perhaps one decision. This week, there was a lot of things that the referee had to kind of pick through and work through. I don't actually buy that Hungbo, for instance, was diving quite as much as people think he was, but I think he was penalised for it at least once. I just think it was a tough game that the referee did relatively well with. But at halftime, kind of there was a lot of calls. I had Pete sitting near me, my mate Pete, who, by the way, said Emily is brilliant on the podcast. No mention about me or anybody else. Says Emily.
Thanks, Pete.
And he's kind of saying you need to go 3 at the back here. The front 2 are giving you the run around. We didn't go 3 at the back, and we conceded quite a soft goal. Again, we conceded a good goal from Wigan's point of view because Sadie has done. I think it's Hamer. Is it Hamer and Towler? He's done to get the ball over, and then Wright is just, Rob Street's 5 yards away from him, watching him run in. 10's 3 yards in front of him, not knowing he's behind him. And Wright's just popped in and gone, thank you very much. And, that's got to have an XG of 0.99. Surely it's the easiest chance you'll see all season.
Yeah, I think it was a good. They worked it well. It was a good goal. I think Sadie out-muscled Hamer, really. I think from where I was sitting, it looked like they had a bit more of a battle to win the ball. And yeah, Sadie came out on top. I think he, as you said, he was a handful. He was a handful of a player. And I think it's just interesting kind of thinking about, in the attacking phases of the game for Wigan, he was able to out-muscle people. He was causing a nuisance. He was playing really well. But then, of course, he's used his strength in the wrong way to concede a penalty. And then, obviously, we'll get onto the red card incident as well later on. So he's a player who's a nuisance that puts himself about, but he's not probably found how to kind of harness that into the areas where it's useful and the areas where it's not so useful. But yeah, it was an easy goal. Again, it kind of felt a bit like we weren't quite at it again for that moment. Hamer out-muscled, right once he was free in the box, just easy header. Yeah, felt like we hadn't got going. And I think it was a difficult one because it feels, and we didn't deserve the lead, I don't think, going into half-time on the balance of it. I feel like we turned it around, but ultimately we didn't really deserve to be ahead. But to have it felt great. And then to kind of that balance come back in was just a bit like, oh right, okay, yeah, that's it, here we go. And then they were playing so well. Again, it was one of those moments where you just think, what have we got for the rest of this game?
Yeah, do you know what? I agree. I thought at 2-1 we're going to be under the cosh. Thought it was going to be like the second half of Northampton and the second half of Bolton, and they came out and that's what they did. They pinned us in. I think they won corner after corner. They scored the goal. I think we absolutely need something here. What we got after that was to think of football, think a game of football with no goals after like 55 minutes could be quite as entertaining as it is, or as it was. It's surprising. So now chronologically, I may be going all over the place now, but the first thing I wanted to pick up on is Rob Street's first booking, which he's gone to challenge for a ball from the header, and the referee's penalised him because he's apparently led with his arm. I think that booking's harsh, personally. I don't know if you remember it. I've got the access to Y-Scout, so I've been able to look back, and I think that's a harsh booking for Street, which puts him on a disciplinary tightrope.
Yes, I do. I think on the whole, I think it is harsh. But again, and this, I feel like a broken record saying it's one of those decisions that you do see go either way. You do see attackers going up to challenge headers with centre halves, and nothing's given. Sometimes free kicks are given, sometimes cards are given. It's given one way or the other. It's really inconsistent in how officials deal with those kind of coming together as those 50-50, so to speak. So I do think it's harsh. However, they do get given as yellow cards. So I think ultimately I can't argue with it too much. That's kind of where I'm standing on it at the moment.
Fair enough. Fair enough. No arguing whatsoever with Christian Sadie's red card. At the time, I saw it happen and I thought, my God, there's nothing in that at all. And then the red card comes out and I'm like, we've caught one there. And then the replay, somebody sent the replay in one of our chats and it looked horrific. And I've watched it back and it's actually what I'd describe as a horror tackle. I mean, he's over the top. He's straight in the leg. If Bayliss's leg's planted, he cracks it in half.
Yeah.
He snaps his leg.
It's a leg breaker, isn't it? Yeah. It's a 100% red card, and I don't really have any more analysis to say on it because that is as clear cut as it was. What I did like was the referee going over and talking to the fourth official, who was right next to it, so had the best view. Obviously, took what the fourth official said on board and showed the red card. I think it was interesting going back to what Ryan Lowe's post-match interview. I think obviously he made some of those strange comments that you mentioned about the marking at the corner where they conceded the penalty, but he was playing it very cool, I think, and sort of said, "Oh, those tackles, I don't know whether they're a red or a yellow these days." And I thought that is the most stonewall red card you're ever going to see. So I don't know what you're talking about. Obviously, kind of trying to play it down, play it off, but absolutely no other decision other than a red card.
Yeah, it's a red card 20 years ago. It's a red card now. Respect to Brian Lowe, he did say he apologised to Tom Bayliss because he said he thought he was play acting. My question is, it's happened 2 feet in front of Ryan Lowe, right in front of the dugout. How he hasn't seen it as a red card from the off, I have absolutely no idea at all. So basically, we'd changed shape before that. So we'd gone to a 3 at the back just before that to try and get a foothold in the game. We'd put Rob Street up front to get a little bit more pace. People were questioning, was taking James Collins off the right thing to do? Tactically, I think what I could see was that we wanted to maybe get in behind a little bit more, and James Collins isn't the quickest of players. I think putting Rob Street through the centre and trying to get a little bit more pace in is why Collins came off. I know he's a goal scorer. I know you leave him on and he probably scores the chance that Ben House gets, but do we create that without the pace and the fresh legs? I don't know. It's woulda, shoulda, coulda. But
I think that's very true. I think it's very true because he sorry, I was just going to say he never gets hat tricks, James Collins, because he always comes off before he has the chance. He has the chance to, but I think that was probably the right decision because I think he is a goal scorer, but aside from scoring goals, not a key role in kind of in those kinds of games. He can easily drift out of them, and if we're not able to create the chances, as you say, he's not going to get the service to be able to score the goals. He's not often kind of creating those chances. He's finishing them off. So yeah, I think it's the right decision to kind of to change things around at that point.
And it is also the 4th time he scored a brace for us and then come off in a game. I did
Yeah,
just make sure he
exactly.
did come off against Bolton. Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Exactly. He's
So,
never going to get a hat trick. Bring him off.
And then we had to change formation. So we went back to, I think Adam Reach then moved into holding midfield when it was 11 versus 10, because we think we can go and win the game. And then the referee within 10 minutes has evened it up. I was adamant that this was not a red card. I was adamant. I have an issue with the high foot rule. I've just noticed the time, 30 minutes. God, excuse me. I have an issue with the high foot rule, because for me, a high foot only becomes a high foot when a player puts a face in somewhere. So if Rob Street miscontrols that ball and throws his foot out to kick it, and there's no player near, nobody bats an eyelid. So the foul only becomes a foul when another player decides to go in for it with his head. If the other player had also gone for it with his foot, then there's no foul again. So for me, it just makes the high foot rule I found really ambiguous. And I'm sure there's a lot of people now listening to this or watching this going, wanker, what are you talking about? But it's like, I find it really difficult. You know, like Tendai cleared one a little bit later, overhead. So he's overhead. So his foot is above his head. I know technically for his body, but therefore his foot's high. If he clears that, but another player, one of their players has come in to head it, and they connect, Ten's then punished, and there's a penalty given for a high foot. Whereas for me, it's the kid come in, he's gone for the header. I don't know if there's contact or not. He doesn't hold his face when he goes straight to the floor. If I've been kicked in the face, the first thing I do is hold my face. Yeah. He just goes down, and then it's only when there's all this furore around him that he then moves his hand over to his face. For me, I actually don't think that's a yellow card, and I don't think Rob Street should have been sent off.
That's interesting. And I know this is a football podcast, but what I will say very, very briefly is I used to play a little bit of hockey. And in hockey, if you approached a player from behind and they were to raise their stick as if to hit a shot, but you'd come from behind, obviously you're at risk of getting hit in the face with their stick going backwards. But you, the player coming in, would be penalised because you're making it dangerous by being there, rather than the person lifting their stick, because that's what you need to do to play hockey. So it's a similar thing, but obviously the rule is sort of the other way around in that sport, which is just an interesting little tidbit there. But no, the red card, I'm going to disagree with you. For me, they get given as yellow. That's a yellow card. They get given as yellow cards. I think, the rule might be a bit ambiguous, but when you put your foot in that high, I think you can't not expect a yellow card, and I don't have many arguments with it, to be honest. Again, I think that when you're already on a booking, as soft as the first one was, you've got it, regardless, you've got that card now. So it's a bit foolish to then go in with your foot that high for me, but on Street's part. But I can't really argue with it personally. That's my opinion.
So quick question. Let's assume the pace of the game's being played at, that Street has miscontrolled it, and now he's gone to bring it under control with his foot and doesn't realise that the player is near him. It's not a conscious high foot, because Ten's done exactly the same thing in the area when he's cleared it. So it's just part of playing the game. That's my argument on it, personally, is that, Malcolm Johnson's asked, do we think it was similar to Jackson at Wimbledon? No, Jacko at Wimbledon's planted the studs in somebody's chest. That's, for me, that is a red card. But then that's the beauty of football, isn't it? And I suppose, I felt a huge sense of injustice at that point. And don't get me wrong, I can see why it was given. I haven't come away going, that's a terrible decision. I think the ref had a good game. Rob Street has given him a decision to make, but I don't think it's as easy as saying he shouldn't have had his foot there, because if he's just miscontrolled it, and then the natural instinct is to try and bring it down with his foot. I don't think his foot is as unnaturally high as perhaps. I don't know. It's like Flossie Tops has said, it's 6 and 2 threes, isn't it? It's one way or the other. And we got the look with the penalty. We didn't get the look with the red card. Moving on a little, it then got, what did you put in your notes after that? You read your notes out beforehand.
I did, yeah. In my notes, I've written when it was 10v10, it was, right, you have a go, then we'll have a go. Then you have a go, then we'll have a go. It was that kind of end-to-end kind of finale to the game, and I really thought we'd nicked it right at the end. I was on my feet, punching the air, thinking that's in. It's not. That kind of crushing. I'm a bit annoyed at that as well. That chance, I feel like we should have buried it. Didn't.
Huge kudos to Oscar Thorne, who came on and looked. He's beginning to look a little unplayable at times because he's big, he's quick, he's desperate to get a cross in. It was his cross, I think, that Ben House really should have scored. It's a great opportunity to score. James Collins buries it, but
Yep.
But do we get that chance? But with the game state and all of that, I'm not saying we should have left Collins on because he scores the goal and we win 3-2 because there's no guarantee that chance he played. I thought Ben House played well when he came on. I thought he put himself about. I thought he got into decent positions. Yes, he's missed a chance, but Collins has missed chances for us time and again.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
and
more,
at the moment,
it's highlighted more, isn't it, when you need that goal to go in, and those moments, isn't it, when you need that goal, and it's so kind of just a gilt-edged chance. It really, those misses stand out, unfortunately, much more.
And then he did it again, where he couldn't control the ball in the area, and it's obviously Adam reached and had it cleared off the line. They've hit the bar. It was just, if you're a neutral watching that game, you come away thinking, my God, that's fantastic. If you're a Lincoln City fan watching that game, I didn't know on the final whistle. I came out and I met Chris, and my first words were, I don't know whether to be happy or sad, because we were the second best for 60 minutes. We were given a lifeline to get back into the game. But then actually, after Sadie's red card, I thought we were the better side for 25 minutes. But while we were the better side, they could have scored. And when they were the better side, we did score twice. It was just a fairly unpredictable game. But in the end, I think probably a fair a point was just about fair.
Yeah, I agree. I think a point was fair. I think it's also like, Wigan are a much better. They actually are a much better team than the league position shows, and they really impressed me. Like I say, at one point I feared the worst, the way that they were playing and the way that we were ultimately playing. So actually, I think I felt all right leaving the ground. I felt like that was a good point. And particularly because it felt so entertaining, and those kind of having the last minute chances just to steal it, but not quite doing it, I felt quite good. I think that's a good point. I think this season, I think that's a really good point for us.
Yeah, I think league position after 7 games is really tough. Pete messaged me this morning and basically said, "Oh, your league position's false because you haven't played anybody above you." But if you're in a position now where you've played teams above you, the likelihood is they beat you. That's why they're above you in a kind of an early game state. It's only after 10 or 12 games where things even out, where a run of 2 or 3 games that you've won doesn't reflect so heavily, if that makes sense. We've only got a small sample size. When I was growing up, I remember my old man always used to tell me, never look at the league table until 10, 12 games in, because only then have you begun to see which teams are in form, which teams aren't. There are always teams that start badly and climb. Last year it was Orient. This year I've absolutely no doubt that Wigan will climb the table. They've beaten Stockport, I think, in the cup. They've drawn with Stockport. They've been away to Luton. They've had a couple of tough games away at Leyton Orient's tough as well. So, yeah, I think when you talk about false positions, and this is more directly at you, Pete, if you're listening, but I think it's Wigan that are more in a false position. But I think it's hard for anybody to tell anything just quite yet.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think the league just looks really interesting to me at the moment, but it is a small sample size. And I was just looking across at the comments, and I can see that Flossie Top says that she felt relieved at the end of the game, which made me think that at one point I was saying to my dad, "I'll take 1-0 down at half time. Let's just get to half time 1-0 down," and then funnily enough, that's just sums up the game. Really, we ended up going in 2-1 up. But yeah, at that point I was thinking, "Oh my God. I'll take just one."
Yeah.
Just one
100%.
down. But yes, good game.
Yes, we enjoyed it. So what we will do now is take a break. If you are listening at home, if you're watching online, we'll go through some comments. And then when we come back, We're going to be talking ill discipline a little bit more. We've got some interesting questions from the floor. Are we giving it a go this season? And how many points do we think it might take to make the playoffs? And Emily and I will be running through what we think right now is our best starting 11. All that and more coming up after the break. And did you see I managed to get that to finish dead on 40 minutes as well?
Brilliant.
So,
like a pro.
Pro, it's almost like I've done it before. Now we've got a bucket load of comments. So if I skip your comment, my apologies. I'm not doing it to be rude. I'll try and give everybody a mention. So Flossie's been chatting away all the way through. So good evening. Good evening to Harry Jackson. Good evening to John Booth. John, we've got one of your questions coming up after the break. Craig Harvey says, slightly worried about our discipline. I'm not at the moment, and I will explain why. Paul Stalabras recently broke his back. I hope you go on the mend, my friend. Good evening to you both. Have you managed to take a deep breath after yesterday? Well, if I hadn't breathed for 24 hours, you would probably know about it. So, yes, we have. Steve Barton is on. Hello, Steve. Dave Tuplin is on. Hello. We already had Craig Harvey. Yes, we have. Craig Harvey's got 2 accounts. Are there 2 Craig Harveys? That's a different picture. That's a different Craig Harvey picture to that one.
It's a Facebook and a YouTube, that is. Maybe we're being multi-streamed or something.
He's watching us on multi-screens. That's very clever. I actually put us on my new telly the other day. I watched a little bit of Ben and Chris on my new telly, and it worried me that basically I'd got a bigger head of Ben's on the telly than I would have if he was stood in my house doing it. So I'm a fan of that. Gerard Fox, good evening. Good game yesterday. Wigan best side at the bank this season. Lucky to get a point. Yeah, I think we probably battled to a point. I think if you had to pick a winner, it would have been them, wouldn't it? So, Keith Clifton, good evening to you both and everyone watching. The Red Wimp is online. Good evening. Richard is on. Missed the start again. I think that's Mr. Godson. It's good to see you. And the S is on. We're really getting through now. Gerard says, do we think Skubal is managing Collins' minutes properly? If he played the 90, he would have took one of those later chances. He didn't need to come on against Notts playing when needed. I'm not going to second guess because I don't think he came off as a managing minutes task. I think he came off as a tactical substitution, rightly or wrongly. Leslie Rook, good evening. That must be Mummy M's.
Yeah,
I've got to stop doing that. That's it's an in-joke that comes from a comment that was on a thing, and now we're all doing it as if it's like second nature. Ollie H is online. Sue Imp says, bad day at the office. We move on to Burton Rilo apologising to Tom Bayliss. Class on it. The apologising. Malcolm Johnson, he was on both and all. Gaz Nichols, blimey, there's loads of you watching. Thank you so much. Mullin hasn't got many at this level compared to Collins. Absolutely. Dominique is online. Good evening. I'm skipping past a lot of people. Carl is on as well. Fans debate seems to be, should have Collins been taken off? Yeah, I think we've just covered that. Adam Butler says, thought Sadie gave Hamer a tough game. He did. Somebody gave him like a smashed nose as well. I think that was Will Amerson. I think we've said hello to everybody. Jacob is fresh. Good evening to Jacob and Emily. Good evening to Jason Addison. Don Clark, worrying performance defensively. Not entirely sure I agree with that. And not worrying. I think at times we weren't as strong as we could be, but I think worrying is at the moment not something I'd say. We've got 1 defeat in 10 games, league and cup. I'm happy with that at the minute.
Yeah, I would say I was gonna say I would think that Jackson and Tendai had uncharacteristically poor games is probably even too strong. Weren't quite at it, which is uncharacteristic. So I don't think it's worrying just yet.
Another worrying trend of losing points from a winning position. I think again that's I think that depends on the perspective, because actually we salvaged a point from a losing position yesterday as well. So it can be construed one of 2 ways. And we didn't hang on to the lead against Bolton, but we did hang on to the lead against not Mansfield, because that was 10 men, Plymouth, when we led, and we hung on to the lead against Northampton. So actually, whilst it's a perception of losing points from a winning position, when it's 11 versus 11 on the field, I don't think that is a trend. Just looking back, Reading, we were winning and won. Harrogate, we were winning and won. Plymouth, winning and won. Northampton, winning and won. Bolton, yes, we did concede. That was 1-1, so we did lose from a winning position then, but we held out for, I think, 90 plus minutes. Burton, winning and won. Mansfield, winning, went down to 10 men, and then lost the winning position. Notts County, winning and won, and yesterday losing and drew. So again, perception, but I understand the point. Phil Bennett, Humbo was throwing himself on the floor all afternoon looking for a free kick, the little cheat. I think he's that little, Phil. He's a big bugger. He's a big, strong and quick. Kate, good evening. And David Ward, good evening. Right.
Whew, whew. Thank you all for watching. It's humbling to have so many of you on board.
It's brilliant. I need a break from the break. Shall we come back in?
Yeah, go on then.
And welcome back to part 2 of the Stacey West podcast. Just to refresh, we've been talking about, I don't know if we need to refresh, actually. We do it for Stu. Refresh, we've been talking about Wigan, but we are going to move on now. Now, we don't have any particular structure for this. We've got some things we're going to talk about, which we haven't put in any structure. So I think we need to touch on discipline. So I'm going to throw some numbers that I've prepared and not shared with you rather rudely, but it's not purposeful.
Make some notes.
Yellow cards this season in League 2. Lincoln City 23. Next, Wickham on 19. Huddersfield on 16. So aside from Wickham and Huddersfield, we have had 8 yellow cards more than any other team. Okay. And that's causing people some problems. It's causing people some worry, and I can understand that. I think you have to bear in mind that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those came against Mansfield with a referee who I think was a little bit over keen with his cards. 5 of those have gone to Riley Towler. We didn't mention actually the dropped red cards, did we? In the Wigan game.
Well, not funny. Horrific for the split second until you realise what was going on. Good God.
Handled well by the referee. Now let's talk about fouls per game, because actually we are not the team that commits the most fouls in this division. That's Bradford City on 101 fouls, but only 15 yellows. And it's us on 98 fouls with 23 yellows. Exeter have only committed 7 fouls fewer, but have got 11 fewer yellow cards, so 12 yellows to 91 fouls. Bolton, 87 fouls, 10 yellows. So in terms of fouls per yellow card, we are actually one of the teams that are the harshest done by. So we are shown a yellow card every 4.3 fouls, which is the same as Plymouth, ironically, who have committed the fewest fouls in the division at 65, but have still got 15 yellow cards, and Wickham 4.2. But at the other end of the scale, Blackpool commit 11.8 fouls before getting a yellow card. Wigan 9.3, Northampton 9.1, Wimbledon 8.9. In fact, our 4.3, there's only 2 other teams, as I said, there's Plymouth and then Reading on 4.7. All of the others are above 5. Most are above 6, or 6, 7, 8, and 9 fouls. So there is an argument that we're being a little bit hard done by. And by the way, Stevenage commit more fouls per 90, so they've played 1 game fewer than us. So although they've conceded 13 fewer fouls, they actually concede 12.75 per game. So we're not the dirtiest team. And actually, our 12.56 fouls per 90, Burton Albion, who are 18th in the foul table, are 10 fouls per game. So literally, we're talking us 2.5 fouls more than one of the lowest teams. So the question I'll ask Emily after I've thrown all of those numbers at you is the discipline as bad as it looks, or have we got 1 or 2 games that have really stood out as being either poorly refereed or just shown poor discipline, which skew the stats at this early stage?
Well, Gary, you have stolen my sandwiches, because I was also looking at very similar stats to that. And I was going to bring to this table that in our last 2 games, we have been out-fouled by the opposition, but we've picked up more cards. And so in answer to your question, I think we have been a little bit hard done by, actually, because I think, as we've said, the ref had a good game yesterday. I can't argue with it too much. However, there were a few, not big decisions that are going to change the game, that are going to live long in the memory. But there were a few fouls given that I think deserved a card for the opposition, didn't get one. A few softer challenges where we did get a yellow card. And those fine margins, as I think they say in this industry, I think they make all the difference. I think the Mansfield game was just bonkers. It's almost like an outlier. I think, yesterday it's fresh in the mind for me, so I can kind of go back to it straight away. Definitely a few decisions where I thought the referee should have dished out a yellow card for Wigan and didn't. One particular one where Rob Street was fouled right on the touchline in the corner in the I think it was in the first half, and I just expect the ref didn't even give a foul, and I was waiting for the card, and he didn't even give a foul. So I do think we've been hard done by in that regard. I think the stats back that up. I mean, I wonder whether there's a little bit about, are we not smart enough in what we do? Talking about, I know there was a comment about the Wigan player. I can't pronounce his name. Kwong. Do it for me, Gaz. Number 44. He was that's it. I'm going to pronounce it and get it wrong. But I don't think he was necessarily diving. I think he was playing for, felt a little touch, went down. And if you do that maybe 3 times and it's always against Tendai Darikwa or, whatever, it's that accumulation of fouls, isn't it? So I think we've probably been hard done by, but I also think maybe there's a little bit of naivety in how we go about. We're not really fouling in the right way, perhaps. Yeah. Maybe there is a right way to do it.
I get that. I think I'm going to draw people's attention to the fact that on average over the last calendar year, we've been shown, I think it's 2.07 yellow cards per game. This season in the league, we were shown 1 against Reading, none against Wimbledon. Plymouth, we actually got 6, Northampton 4, so they're above average. But the Bolton game, it was just 2 apiece. Mansfield, another 6. So actually and yesterday 4, okay, slightly over. So actually the outliers are the Mansfield and Plymouth games, where two games where we've been shown 6 apiece, which is 12 cards, which is what puts us way ahead. The Mansfield game, we know that there were some that were harsh. What I'm going to do, I can't do it now. I meant to do it this afternoon. I haven't had time. I'm going to watch every single one of those yellow cards back on Y-Scout and find out what they were for. Because there is a discussion going on in the chat. Mark says indiscipline from back chatting and not being cute enough is causing our problems. And John says, I'm not sure we've had that many from back chat. Only remember 1 or 2. I think Tom Bayliss was booked for back chat yesterday. I think he was the only one. I think against Mansfield, I know Freddie Draper was. Yeah. George Wickens was. So I'll watch back and see how many. I think that the cards will settle down over the course of the next few games. I don't think it's huge in discipline. On the subject of it costing us as well, just to be really clear, there was a misconception from the BBC Radio Lincolnshire interview that Sonny Bradley has got a 3-match suspension. I've confirmed with the club this afternoon it's a 1-match suspension, which I think most people believed. So it is definitely, he's back. So we don't have 3 suspensions for the 8th league game of the season. Towler will be out, so Adam Reach will play because Towler has reached 5 yellow cards, one of which was definitely not a yellow card, by the way, at Northampton. So again, it was a really harsh yellow. So Adam Reach will play, Sonny Bradley will play, and obviously we will miss Rob Street. So that means that we're going to be picking from our post-international break squad for the first time. There will be some changes. Emily and I have picked our starting 11s. Mine is based on what I've seen so far. So I'm not picked mine on potential.
Is
We
this
had the question.
Is this starting 11? Everyone's fit. Everyone's available. Who are you going with? That's the question,
Yeah,
right? Okay.
it is.
Got you.
The actual question, it's come from our Discord, and we're going to move on to the Discord questions now. Who was it who said this? This is it. So it's Scunny Imp on our Patreon Discord channel. Now the window is closed. If all players are fit, in form, and available, who is in your starting 11 and who doesn't make the squad? Now, the disclaimer I am going to put on this is I haven't seen a B Crew Lembikisa play. I haven't seen Varfolomiev play, so it's hard to make judgments on those players. So, Emily, are we agreeing that we're playing a 4-2-3-1?
Yes.
So I can go through each position, and you and I can tell the lovely listeners who we believe should play in each of those positions. Then we can have a little chat about it, and we can move on to the other 2 questions that we have planned, and we will go over the hour. Are you ready?
Yes, I think so.
Who's your first choice keeper?
It's George Wickens.
It is George Wickens. I don't think there's any debate there. Who's your right back?
Dirikwa.
Absolutely, I'll agree with that. Who's your left back?
Adam Reach.
Adam Reach is the player that I have picked. I think just to defend Riley Towler at left back, it's purely because he has done a good job. I think he's been fine. I actually think he's looked to be one of our strongest players over the opening few games. He's been a threat in the opposition box. I think he's managed himself really well at the back, but he isn't a left back. And Adam Reach is. He can play left back and he can do it well, but I think Adam Reach will be our left back. So who's playing left-sided centre half?
Sonny Bradley.
Yep. And who's playing right-sided centre half?
I feel like this is a quiz. I'm ticking off my answers as you say. Yep. Tom Hamer.
Again, yes. So what we've done there is we've just said that Riley Towler, 1, is one of your favourite players, and 2, for me, has been one of the best players so far for us this season, and we've both dropped him. What a predicament for Michael Skabala to have when all of the players are fit.
Exactly. And that's not even mentioning Adam Jackson, who is just a stalwart. Not even in the pit, not even in the discussion. So there we go.
He had a tough afternoon yesterday afternoon against 2 really good centre halves. So we've got 2 players that play in the holding midfield role. On the evidence that we have so far, who are your 2 central midfielders?
Conor McGrandles.
Yeah.
Tom Bayliss.
That's what I have also picked, because as yet we haven't seen Igor. I keep wanting to call him Igor, and I don't know why. We haven't seen Ivan Varfolomiev, and so therefore I can't say he should start. And I'll never pick a player on supposition. It has to be on evidence. I actually think Tom Bayliss has had a really good start to the season. You had him as your man of the match yesterday.
I did.
He's a danger from set pieces, and I think Conor McGrandles. It's easier to see the good stuff he does when Ethan Abraham isn't doing it, but a little bit better next to him.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think Bayliss was my man of the match yesterday. I've been really impressed with his, being in those defensive positions as well. I think we know he's quite creative. He's got a great kind of dead ball delivery, but often there's a last-ditch challenge and you go, that's Tom Bayliss. So I've been really impressed with him.
Who do we have in the 2 wide roles?
I think this is where it's going to get interesting. There's lots of options.
Yeah, there are.
Now, Rico Hackett.
Yeah.
And then I just want to say on this one, I had a head versus heart, because my head was saying my head has said, pick the player that you've seen play a lot, they're good, put them in, you start in 11. But my heart's going, but you've seen something in somebody else that you like. You've not seen a lot of them, but you like what you see, don't you? And that player is Oscar Thorne.
Yeah.
Really liked what I've seen of him so far, and there's a potential aspect to him, but I've overruled my heart with my head, and I'm going to stick with Rob Street there.
I have put Oscar Thorne in over Rob Street. Rob is a good player, but I don't think he is a wide player. He's a centre forward. And I think at the moment he's getting the wide minutes because we need to keep him in and around the squad, to keep an eye on his development, to give him time. He gives us flexibility during the game to go through the middle. And most of whenever we seem to have made a change recently, it seems to have been whoever's playing through the middle coming off, Rob Street moving into the middle when he's out on the right, and then the change coming out on the right. I've put Oscar Thorne based on what I've seen, but that's because I'm a sucker for a winger. I do love a winger. Yeah,
it was close. Like I say, I was weighing it up for a long time. Well, in the 15 minutes before we came on air, but a lot in that small time.
I get it. Who plays in the 10 for you?
Again, another difficult one. Another very difficult one. But I've picked Ben House.
Interesting.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. And I said last year that I thought we should get rid of him. So there we go. What a story arc that is.
I've picked Freddie Draper because I think he has been excellent. I think he was excellent yesterday. I think he's toughened up. He looks smarter. He looks a little bit leaner. He's not giving away as many fouls. Or I say that actually. I'm sure if I click on Y-Scout, player that's given away the most fouls in League Two, I'm pretty sure that it'll probably be Freddie Draper on after I've said that. But I just think I think it's his position. I think Jack Moylan's injury, as upsetting as it is for Jack, has been a lifeline for Fred that he has taken with both hands, and he really impresses me. And I assume when we're talking about our number 9, there's not going to be a lot of arguing, is there?
No, do I even need to say it?
No, you don't. It's Frankie Uncle Wonkro. So who have we left out? We've left out Towler, Varfolomiev, all of the players that we've brought in on loan, including Okawonkwo, who actually every time I see him does impress me. I've left out Ben House. You've left out Freddie Draper. Eric Ring hasn't even got a mention. It's a deep squad, and these are tough decisions that Michael's going to have to make and then manage over the course of the next few months.
It certainly is. And can I just to, I know I said this to you off air just before we came on, but I cannot stop thinking about Dom Jeffries. And not in a creepy way. I just really like Dom Jeffries. I think he was such a good player last season. And I do not know how and where he comes in. And that stresses me out, Gaz, because I like him.
Yeah. It does me. I could actually see him playing in the holding midfield role, which is where I think he was playing for Gillingham. But then that's Bayliss and McGrandles and Varfolomiev and Jeffries, and we haven't even looked at Finn Barbrook. It's a decent squad, and hopefully once we've got these players fit and firing, it gives us a little bit of depth. Shall we move on to, we've got a couple of other questions and we'll try to answer them fairly quickly. I put them in a WhatsApp chat, didn't I? So we've talked about discipline. We've got the 7. So I think we've covered this one, to be fair, but 7 games in the league so far, 3 sending-offs, 3 draws in games we were winning, 2 penalties won, a couple of penalties against avoided. Do we think we've been unlucky overall or lucky? They say it balances out over a season, but where does the balance lie after 7 games? All I will say about that is I think 7 games is an impossible sample size to even judge luck. But I generally think, I mean, even yesterday we're talking about, the red card, was it or wasn't it? We're talking about the penalty, was it or wasn't it? And we've come out on different sides of those decisions. So I'm going to say at the moment it's too early to tell.
Oh, that's on the fence, Gaz.
Yeah,
well, do you know what? Yeah. I'm gonna pick a side. I mean, to be fair, I do sort of. I think you make your own luck, and we've come, like you say, we've come out on different sides of different decisions. So I can't. It's probably balanced itself out. But if I was to pick, I think we've been a little bit unlucky. I think Bolton. I mean, yes, we were hanging on for grim death, but God, we were close. And that felt a little bit unlucky. And then Mansfield, that red card for Bradley, that felt unlucky. And if we'd have had 11 men on the pitch, I think we could have won that. So if I'm going to pick one side to go, I'll say we've been a little bit unlucky.
Very quickly, Freddie Draper, second highest number of fouls in the division committed, and the most number of fouls committed per 90 minutes. So there you go. The eye test is wrong. He's perhaps been unlucky. Who knows? Another question, and I like this one, and I've done some numbers. So even though we're going to overrun, we are going to talk about this one. So looking at the table early doors, it looks like we could be in for a season where anyone can beat anyone, maybe with the exception of Cardiff. And the ability to string a couple of wins together could make your season. One, do we think that this will see a lower points total needed to make the playoffs? And two, is this a year where being consistent, average in form, and perhaps being happy with a few draws could really pay off? So the average points in brackets, high 60s, low 70s. So I looked back over the last 10 completed seasons, not counting the 2019-20 season. Only twice has what I would consider to be low 70s or high 60s been enough to get you into sixth. In 2015, Chesterfield finished on 69 points and finished in the playoffs. And in 2018, the team whose name I have not written down finished on 71. Other than that, 73, 74 was enough in 2016, 2017, 2019, and 2021. I don't particularly think they're low 70s. Mid 70s, I would say. But then anyone who's 33 is not going to say that they're in their mid 30s, I suppose. And it's only the last 4 years that the numbers have really gone up. 83 in 2022, then 77, 76, and 78 over the last 3 seasons. To answer the question, do I think that a lower points total will get you in the playoffs this season? No, I think that you're still going to need to be on 74, 75 points. I still think that the standard is very high. After 7 games, I think it's easier to look and say anybody could beat anybody. But I think that 1 or 2 of the teams who have done well or are up there at the moment will begin to drop away a little bit. And I don't want to be too hard on the likes of Doncaster, Stevenage and Bradford, but I can see those 3 maybe settling into a kind of 12th to 15th. So your Cardiffs, your Huddersfields, your Barnsleys and Lutons are up there. Stockport, Bolton make up the top 10 with us. They'll be up there. And then you look down the bottom and think 1 or 2 of the teams from there, particularly Wigan and Plymouth, will probably rise. But I can see it being another season, a little bit like last season, where there are probably 6 teams running away with it. And then the final playoff place up for grabs on about 74, 75 points.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I tend to agree with that. I think we've said it again repeatedly on this episode. It's early days. It's early days. Teams will settle down. Teams will pick up. But there is an exciting kind of element to that. You've got to have a bit of hope, haven't you, when you're a football fan? And I think that Lincoln City, for me, we've outperformed how I thought we might start the season. So anything is possible, Gary. Anything is possible.
It is. Now, I know that we're over time, but you did have a question slipped to you through backdoor methods, I believe, rather than coming through the Discord. But it would be remiss of us not to address it. So the question is from a very close person to you. So, yeah, fire away and we shall answer.
Yeah, so my dad posed me this question yesterday as we were heading to the game, and I thought it'd be good for discussion and something to get your thoughts on, Gaz. He just said to me yesterday, do you think we're giving it a go? Do you think we're going for it? Thoughts?
I think it's a good question because the perception, I think, from the end of the transfer window is yes. People are going, I made all these 4 signings on deadline day, and everyone's quite excited about we made all these signings on deadline day. Whereas, in actual fact, what we did was fluff up the squad on deadline day. And that's no disrespect, probably with the exception of Adam Reach, but it's no disrespect to Finn Barbrook or Justin Abiku or Dexter Lembikisa. No disrespect to them, but they're not players that I'm going to expect to be in the starting 11 week in, week out. But are we going for it doesn't necessarily mean us strengthening the starting 11. We've just made our club record signing. We were heavily linked with another significant signing which didn't come off. We've got strikers now. We've got so many options. And under Dan and Nick, you used to say, "Oh, we only ever carried 3 strikers, didn't we?" Like it was Matt Reed, Ollie Palmer, and Matt Green, or when one went out, one went in. We never had any more. We never had the options. I always just look at other teams going, they can pull this lone player out. Whereas now we've got James Collins, Freddie Draper, Ben House, Jordan Abiku. I'm forgetting Rob Street. We've got players that can play through the middle. Consciously, are we going for it? I think we've probably thought that we would like to go for it every season, but have we found ourselves in a position, thanks to transfers, to beef up our squad so that during those heavy games on Saturday, Tuesday in December, are we adequately covered? Then yes. I also think we probably are going for it every season. I don't think we're ever reserved and go, we want to finish 10th, but sometimes we don't have the resources to back it up. We're all talk, but when the wallet opens, the moths come out, and I don't think that's the case this summer, given the players that we've sold. So, yeah. I think and sorry to ramble on a little bit, but I also think on the pitch we have been a little bit more adventurous. Some people have said we've been a bit long ball, and I disagree with that. I do think we go direct at times, but I think we've shown a lot more attacking intent in the first 7 League One games, bar those second halves where we were backs against the wall against Northampton and Bolton. I think we've shown some good attacking intent. We scored 3 goals against Plymouth. We've scored 2 goals yesterday. Scored 2 goals against Reading. I just think that it is Lincoln City, Michael Skubala 2.0. And I think we've learned from our mistakes.
I think that's interesting. I think, for me, when my dad mentioned it, I was sort of thinking about when we talked about our League One predictions and where are Lincoln City going to finish. I was very much like, it'll be pretty average, and I'm not expecting a great deal from this season. I'm happy to just sail through this one, and we're not going to go down. Let's just have a nice time. And that has changed a bit for me. I'm a little bit more excited. I've got a little bit more optimism, a little bit more hope, which says, again, that's kind of like an eye test, brain test. It just says to me something's switched, something different's happening, something new is happening, something exciting is happening. I think it's interesting. I was thinking as well about, I think maybe it's the transfers, the sale of players has enabled us to do something. I wonder if the club look at the opportunity and go, is this the right time? They look at the footballing ecosystem. Sound like Liam again. But look at how the season started and what other clubs have done, what they're doing, and kind of make a calculated decision to go, if we're going to go for it, now is the time. Whether that's now they've done it or it's another time, I don't know. And there's just something about the players that we've brought in. I know you said they've been brought in to kind of fluff up the squad and strengthen it, but I think players like Abiku, for me, he's not some young lad on loan that just wants to get some senior minutes. It seems a fairly decent player based on his stats. He's got some goals in League Two. And knows how to find the net, it seems like. So I think he will come in and add something that is more than just bodies, which I think we've, maybe seen a bit in the past. We've seen players with potential, that kind of get everyone a bit excited. Joe Gardner maybe gets everyone excited. He gets the ball at his feet and he runs and he does, scores a goal or so. But then actually, I think, Abiku seems a bit more proven. So yeah, maybe. Be exciting, wouldn't it, if we were just thinking, let's have a little go, see how we get on. A calculated go at the league. Not at the league, not the top of the league.
Promotion. Yeah, I get it. Right, well, there's actually other questions that we are going to have to skip because even with our 5-minute break, we are now 8 minutes over the hour. It's almost like a lambing episode, something that unfortunately you won't actually be getting much of over the next week or so because this is what the schedule looks like. It's me and Emily today. As you know, that's all done and dusted now. Next week, it's Wednesday, we'll be recording. Ben is away, so you'll have my dulcet tones accompanied by the Gibraltar boy, Charlie Beast, and then next Sunday it's a rerun, myself and Emily again, and then finally Chris is going to be coming back packed full of stats, bursting with stats, a week and a half's worth of stats building up in him like some sort of horrible spot waiting to be popped in your face a week on Wednesday. It's a stats zit, and it's coming your way. So that's something. Yeah, that's something to think about. In the meantime, we were always going to overrun today because it was an outstanding game of football for a neutral, and for a Lincoln City fan, probably a fair result on the balance of things. And when I say fair, I mean the result that suits us best, that wasn't us getting beat. We will be back, as I said, on Wednesday, but in the meantime, up the imps.
Up the imps.